Once upon a time, on the dark, windy, and a little rain at night, there was a cop who was patrolling the streets of New York City. He saw a man standing near a dark restaurant with a large jewel in his neck. The cop approached the man.
It's all right, Mr. Officer. I'm waiting for my friend. 20 years ago, we promised to meet here.
The man said that he had dinner at Big Joy Brady's restaurant exactly 20 years ago with Jimmy Wells, his best friend. The man's name was Bob. He said that he and Jimmy Wells grew up together in New York, but Bob went west to find a job while Jimmy stayed in New York. They lost contact for a long time because Bob moved place to place quickly. It sounds interesting. You must be so successful in the West. What if he isn't come tonight? Are you going to leave?
Yes, I can say that, but I will wait for half an hour for my friend.
Alright, I'm leaving. Good night. About 20 minutes, a tall man in a long coat came rushing across the street and went directly to Bob and introduced himself as Jimmy Wells. Is that you, Bob?
Is that you, Jimmy Wells?
Bob felt so happy to meet Jimmy. They went to a proper place to talk a lot. When they stood in a bright shop with electric lights, suddenly Bob realized that it wasn't Jimmy. They argue at a moment, and the tall man gives a piece of paper to him. Dear Bob, I was with you at the time, and I know you were the criminal who has been searched by Chicago cops. I didn't want to arrest you myself, so I went and got another cop and sent him to the job. Jimmy. It turns out that Bob was a wanted criminal in Chicago. Bob was tricked by a tall man who disguised as Jimmy Wells, and he ended up arrested by Chicago cops.
Let's talk about the analysis story. Jimmy Wells' character, a dedicated cop officer who values duty and honesty. It shows in Jimmy's letter. He was at the place and he saw the face of the man wanted by Chicago cop, that is Bob. However, he didn't want to arrest by himself, so he went and got another cop to do it. Bob's character, loyal in friendship. Based on the conversation, he waited for Jimmy patiently near the Big Joy Brady's restaurant. It means that he kept his promise to meet again with Jimmy. The tall man's characters, a flat character and professional in his duty. No much change in his character, and also he was the professional one in his job. Setting. Based on the text, this story happened at 10 p.m. at night and took place about 20 minutes. The story happened on a street in New York City, near the Big Joy Brady's restaurant. The condition was cold and dark, because there was a wind with a little rain. The atmosphere was excited, but goes into tense when Bob arrested by the cop. The plot. Exposition. The story began in a dark, quiet street in New York City at 10 p.m. A cop who was patrolling along the street found a man named Bob was waiting for his old friend. Rising action. Bob told everything about his friend, Jimmy Wells. The cop went away. After 20 minutes, a tall man who disguised as Jimmy Wells came to him, and they talked a lot. Climax. When they walked together to a shop with electric lights, Bob realized that the tall man is not Jimmy Wells, because the man's nose was totally different from Jimmy. Falling action. Bob arrested by the tall man, and he gave Bob a letter from Jimmy Wells. Resolution. Bob read the letter from Jimmy Wells. The point of view of this short story is using the third-person point of view. Many sentences use character names such as Jimmy Wells. The narrative structure is straightforward and linear. The theme of this short story are friendship and drama. Jimmy and Bob are old friends who promise to meet again after 20 years. But Bob become criminal while Jimmy is a cop. Jimmy as a cop officer but also Bob's friend can't stand with his dilemma. So Jimmy asks another cop to disguise as him and arrest Bob.
The story After 20 Years by O.Henry clearly shows how time and life choices can greatly change the path of two old friends. The story brings the meanings of friendship to the test when faced with duty and the law. Even with his strong desires and loyalties to the past, Jimmy Wells, as a cop, decided to do his duty. This means capturing his own best friend, Bob, who is now a criminal. The story deeply shows the conflict between friendship with what is right, proving that sometimes being reunited after so many years can lead to a surprise and heartbreaking truth.